saying the quiet part out loud. Y'all asked for this shit. Every single one of you motherfuckers asked for this shit. Every single one of you asked for this shit. And you know what? It's not all your fault, because our institutions and the people we've been paying, the people we've been electing into office who've then been stealing our money have allowed us to get things to get so bad that now the most powerful and weapons crazy and war hungry country in the entire world possibly has a cabal of like damn near $1 trillion worth of CEOs and no general oversight, and now controls the most powerful country in the world. Congrats. So this is my perspective, right? As somebody who's not American and I live in Canada, right? I have a very good understanding of like the frustration of a lot of people have felt with liberal and democratic parties for the last 10 or so years. Now, if you're American, just keep up with this, right? I hated Justin Trudeau. I still despise that piece of shit more than any other human being I've ever seen come into political power. Why? Because he's a fucking liar. And he used all the minority people and all the causes we actually care about as a reason to block himself from any wrongdoing or any accountability for the shitty things he's done to this country for the last 10 years. And because of how shitty he was, because, yeah, he stepped down, but technically his party is still in power, I started leaning way more to the right side of things. Because I didn't want this piece of shit ruining my life more than he has with the taxes, with the COVID response, with the gaslighting, with the unaffordability, with the housing crisis, all the shit that he said he was going to fix that he didn't take care of at all. It forced many, many of us way on the right side of things. Not far right, but like at least enough where we're like, as long as we get the fuck rid of this guy, I'm down for whatever, son. I'm down for whatever. And that same feeling can be replicated in America. When Biden won, it was because everybody saw how crazy the Trump presidency was becoming, or was already being like. So people needed a break. But what happened when they got into power is they did more bullshit that people didn't want. They promised to take away qualified immunity. They didn't do that. They promised to lower the housing market. They didn't do that. They promised that they would take away student loan debt. They didn't do that until it looks like he was about to lose, and they only took away like 10% of it. He sold you out to corporations. He sold you out to overseas work. He opened the border as a direct response to Trump, and instead of vetting people like they usually do, they just opened the border, which then created a whole migrant crisis, which then led to more violence in the streets, which isn't saying all those people who came over were criminals, but you didn't check the criminals that came through. All of that was just political gerrymandering to get more people in who they felt like were going to be more emboldened to vote for them in the future so they could secure power. Meanwhile, the most egregious thing in everyone's eyes was shamelessly supporting a fucking genocide in a country that had done nothing to America, with a country that was murdering children and refused to take any accountability or stop any of it. Not to mention, all the while, it becoming more and more apparent that Joe Biden was not in charge of the country. And whoever was in charge, it was not him. They were making decisions, which then reinforced everybody's suspicions about conspiracies, because now it's proven there's a deep state because the president is not in control. And instead of having any accountability, what did you do? You co-opted all the language that people like me, people and Latin and Asian and East Indian and all the different kinds of dark-skinned people in the world, you co-opted our way of defending ourselves and used it as a shield for yourself from anybody calling out any of the fuck shit you guys were doing, and then basically used us to come between you and the obviously angry masses of people who were pissed off at everything you were doing. 90% of us don't give a fuck about what gay people do or trans people do, right? But when you go and you take a small group and then make them the majority group that you put all your money into and ignoring everybody else, who are just protesting in the street just for the right to live without being harassed or shot, allowing all this shit that happens without any oversight and without anybody allowing to ask questions. Yeah, this is how we get here. And it's not even their fault. You just use them as cannon fodder like you did everybody else. And so look what happens. Donald Trump, of all people, comes back talking sense to the majority of people who are already pissed off they're not being heard. This guy who we know is a liar, who we know is not trustworthy, who we know is a lying piece of shit, who's gonna fuck us over. Everybody was like, he sounds like a better choice. And here we are. But I guarantee you, all the people who didn't vote for Trump still technically voted for Trump because they hated Biden so much. So we handed them an election. Y'all handed them an election. Not just any election, you gave him complete power over everything. Every blood clot thing this man has power over. He has more power than any other president in modern history. Take that in. Obama couldn't do all the shit Trump could do now. And you know the biggest rub of all of it was Inauguration Day? When I saw him on stage with every single billionaire and trillionaire from BlackRock to Google to Elon to all that shit, and realizing this motherfucker had lied to y'all again and convinced y'all that he really was a man of the people, I can collectively hear the entire heart sink around the country. Because again, in Canada, but we attach to you motherfuckers. Right? But this does not let any of the liberals or Democrats off the hook. You guys are lying pieces of shit and you need to figure out how to not be that anymore. If democracy should work, you should listen to your constituents instead of, the corporations who will keep funding you. These guys don't have our best interest at heart. The wildest thing for me is RFK, who is a Kennedy, who has been fighting against big pharma and bad food companies his entire life, switch sides to join Trump because y'all weren't listening to anything he was saying. Who gives a fuck if he doesn't like the vaccines or not? He was right about everything else, but you didn't want to hear it because you only cared about the one thing. You were taking people who were on our side and switching them to the fucking evil empire, and now everybody's scared shitless. So what do we do now? Well, I know what y'all gonna do. I'm over here. I'm thinking if Canada goes the same kind of way, I'm going to Asia or something, or I'm gonna go fly back to Jamaica. Like either way, what y'all gonna do, you have to figure it out. But I have some suggestions. Stop thinking like MLK and start thinking like Malcolm X. That being meaning peaceful protest doesn't do nothing. Now is the time for action. If it gets worse before it gets better, civil war is inevitable. Y'all better start packing up and figure out what y'all gonna do and arming yourselves because shit's gonna get weird. And if you are gonna go through a democratic election again, you have to remove lobbyists and find somebody who doesn't take their money, who actually wants to do better for the country. Because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And last but not least, stop pointing fingers and calling each other the bad guy. Everybody's fucked right now. Don't think it's like one side or the other side. There are motherfuckers who are basically telling us that what is a mustache man sign is not a mustache man sign. Those are the motherfuckers we can't trust. Because there's people on that side who saw that shit and realized we might be fucked. Those are the guys you need to align with because everybody needs to survive this shit. I don't know why I'm getting doomsday feelings off this, but it feels like end of time type shit, like the end of Rome. But remember, if we don't fix the problem, the root cause of all this shit, this is going to happen again. So don't go in this shit with your eyes closed. Wake the fuck up.